The interim government in Bangladesh has sent a diplomatic note, that is note verbale, and urged India to send back former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to Dhaka. The 77-year-old Awami League leader has been living in India since the 5th of August when she fled Bangladesh amidst massive protests that brought down her government, and more than that, it forced her to flee within hours. The Dhaka-based International Crimes Tribunal has issued arrest warrants in name of Sheikh Hasina and several of her key ministers, advisors and former military and civil officials, accusing them of quote-unquote crimes against humanity and genocide. Those are very serious charges. Tawheed Hussain, the foreign affairs advisor in the interim government, has told reporters and confirmed that a note verbale has been sent to the Indian government asking for her extradition. And Mohammad Tajul Islam, the newly appointed chief prosecutor of Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal, has said that Dhaka will file an application with the ICT to ensure and issue an arrest warrant against Sheikh Hasina, who faces 51 cases. There are 42 related to murder, and she's governed by the extradition treaty that's been signed between Bangladesh and India in 2013 and then, of course, amended later on in 2016. But where does this leave the two sides, India and Bangladesh? What does it mean for ties? What can happen to Sheikh Hasina from here on? All those questions we'll try and address. But first up, listen in to the Bangladesh foreign advisor on the note verbal that has been sent to India.
আমরা তাকে যে চাওয়া হচ্ছে ফেরত বিচার ব্যবস্থার জন্য সেটা জানিয়েছি।
স্যার কিভাবে প্রক্রিয়াটা
না একটা নোট ভার্বাল দিয়ে হ্যাঁ নোট ভার্বাল।
All right, let's get in my colleague Vishnu Shom to fill us in with the details. Vishnu, you connect the dots for us here. It's a very tricky diplomatic situation for India right now, and there are no easy answers at this stage. But you've been working up the phones. What are your sources in the MEA telling you?
Well, the External Affairs Ministry will respond because there is an official document, a note verbal, which has been sent from Dhaka to New Delhi asking for the extradition of Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, who's been in India from the 5th of August. She's been a close friend of India, so India will need to really look at whether we are okay about sending her back to Bangladesh. There is an extradition treaty of 2013 between India and Bangladesh. There are clear grounds on the basis of which she can be deported from India, extradited from India. However, there is also a clause in that, and I've read that very carefully, which says that extradition cannot be allowed for purely political motives. However, subsequent to that, there is an explainer saying that if a person is involved in violent crimes or all sorts of crimes, then in fact that political factor doesn't necessarily have to weigh. So New Delhi needs to examine this judicially. Now, what is important, and I think here's the key point, if India chooses not to send Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh, then it really could have a detrimental impact on the overall relationship between the two countries. On the other hand, Sheikh Hasina has been a great friend of India. She's worked that India relationship. There's a strong economic relationship, people-to-people relationship, the old historical cultural relationship as well. There are visas which people in Bangladesh want. So what does Bangladesh really want at this stage? Are they going to make the Sheikh Hasina issue a showstopper in the overall relationship between India and Bangladesh, or are they willing to keep that aside and pursue the overall relationship? That's something that needs to be looked at. And from Delhi's standpoint, what are the dangers over here? If we choose to allow Sheikh Hasina to remain over here, is there a real danger that the vacuum that exists in Bangladesh may become worse and be more detrimental to the relationship with India?
Absolutely. Thanks much, Vishnu, for filling us in with all those details. A story we're going to keep coming back to. But right now, let me, in fact, as we get in Saleem Samad from Dhaka, and we'll get in Manju Seth as well from India, let me first tell our viewers the key questions that we are now discussing today in India Global about what's really unraveling in Bangladesh when it demands Hasina's extradition. The questions that we are asking: will New Delhi yield to Dhaka's demands? As Vishnu was saying, as we've been talking about, what does this mean? There are no easy answers. Second key question that we are asking is where and the clauses of the extradition treaty, where there are exceptions, and how can that be applied or not right now? That's another question that we will come to. And the third and the very important and obvious aspect, will Sheikh Hasina actually get a fair trial in Bangladesh? Assume there are arrest warrants right now. Assuming the deportation happens, will she actually get a fair trial? Given what's happening right now in Bangladesh, the world is seeing how it's unraveling. It remains to be seen whether she will be given the legal and the due process that every citizen of Bangladesh should be given. Let's get in now Saleem Samad to talk on some of that, and then we'll get in Manju Seth as well. Mr. Samad, thanks much for speaking to us, joining us live from Dhaka. I want to start by asking you, how critical do you think this request for extradition of Sheikh Hasina is going to be for Mohammad Yunus's government, and will it be central to its relationship with India?
Thank you for having me on the show. First of all, it is very critical. It will be very, there will be no decision in the next few weeks, because Delhi will definitely have to respond to the Bangladesh request for extradition. But that's not important. The most important thing is that what you have mentioned, that whether Hasina will get a fair trial. So that is one issue. Personally, what I understand from the different government, officials especially, this is just a warm up. So there's nothing to fear. Delhi has nothing to fear about sending her immediately in this winter or after Christmas or whatever, because this is a warm up, and because Professor Yunus in one interview abroad, he mentioned that not very recently, that she would be actually tried in the ICC court in Hague. So obviously you can understand that the United Nations Human Rights Commission have already done basic homework and almost final with their investigation on the charges of crime against humanity, killing students of about 1,500 students and protesters. So that has been investigated by the United Nations Human Rights Commission, and of course they are doing not the entire year, but they're doing a sample size of 700. So obviously they will report to the UN, and that will be taken up in the ICC. So I believe they, instead of India may not hand over Hasina to Dhaka or Bangladesh right now. Maybe they will have to do it after the court starts hearing in Hague.
Okay,
she will be asked.
Have to do is a very strong word, Mr. Samad. Have to do is a very strong word, and I think that is where a lot of diplomacy and a lot of geopolitics really comes into play in terms of how you really word requests. Let's get in Manju Seth on that as well. I asked this question to Saleem Samad about a minute ago, which is that how central will the demand for extradition be to Mohammad Yunus's government and his perception of the India-Bangladesh relationship? And that's a question I ask you as well.
I think this has, it's been spoken about right almost immediately after the Mohammad Yunus interim government took office. They have been saying that we will get her back and India should send her back, etc. And now they have apparently given a diplomatic note. But I think the extradition process, because we do have a treaty with Bangladesh, India does have a treaty with Bangladesh on extradition. And as per the agreement, I think there has to be a whole legal process to be followed. And there are certain caveats there and certain conditions which have to be met for a bilateral extradition. And there are some exceptions as well. So all the legal requirements have to be met. And if they were meant, what I read was that they're talking about the International Criminal Panel in Bangladesh, but maybe if it's the ICC, the International Criminal Court in The Hague, then that has a different. If that is the court, then that will be a different procedure altogether.
Yes.
But again, all legal aspects, all evidence, everything has to be followed before any such request is considered.
And that's a question. Okay, then let me ask you this. Manju said, let me start with you, and then I get in Saleem Samad, which is that, this is not an easy choice for New Delhi. At one end, you, of course, want a diplomatic relationship, which is really seeing a nadir right now to sort of recover to its previous time in terms of the India-Bangladesh relationship. And at the same time, Sheikh Hasina has been a very close ally of India so many years. So, so to say, for want of a better phrase, how do you go about throwing your closest ally out of the bus, so to say, for want of a better phrase? So it's not an easy choice for India, is it?
No, it's a very, very difficult choice because, it is something that we have been over the years, if you look right from the time that Bangladesh became independent, we've had a special relationship with Bangladesh. Even though there were changes in government, I recall even during when the BNP,
Khalida Zia.
Khalida Zia was in power. Even then, we had fairly good relationships. Of course, there has been a little up and down throughout, but with the Sheikh Hasina government, it has been a special relationship, given that her father was, very, very closely interlinked or interconnected with India, and so was she. She was in India, as a matter of fact, when the entire family was killed.
Yes.
And she has been a friend. They have, addressed our concerns regarding terrorists in Bangladesh, and they've helped us with that. So I think she has been a trusted friend, and we cannot abandon her. So it's a very difficult choice. But if there are legal sort of requirements, we don't know how it's going to pan out. We don't know how the government will react to that. It's going to be a very difficult situation for us. And I think we should not abandon our friends. My personal view is, but legal requirements sometimes might compel us to do so. But if there is some exception and exemption, I think Delhi would look at that. India would look at that also. And whether all due process and due evidences have been...
Let me then flip the question and ask this to Saleem Samad, which is that, just like it is a tough diplomatic position right now for India because of difficult choices, it's not an easy choice for Bangladesh as well. How much of the political capital the government and Mohammed Yunus wants to invest in Sheikh Hasina as compared to investing that in rebuilding the India-Bangladesh relationship? It's pretty much the same choice for Bangladesh as well and for Mohammed Yunus as well.
Thank you. Investment, when you talk about investment, it is very important that that India, Sheikh Hasina, as you have said, they're an ally of India or Delhi or the BJP government. She is a spent fuel. So once there is spent fuel, if you have a car and you've just dumped the fuel and then you have a new fuel. And if you have to do that, and if you are still pursuing with the spent fuel, it will be, this relationship between the two countries possibly will not take a new height. It is definitely taking height because Yunus has not been anti-India or haven't been very critical.
Are you saying he's not been anti-India? Are you saying he's not been anti-India? The kind of commentary that's coming from Mr. Yunus's closest advisors. The fact that one of his closest advisors actually had the gumption and gall to come out with a map which he later deleted. The fact that some of the minorities in India, in Bangladesh, are being subjected to treatment that many are shocked at in India. And of course, in addition to that, some of the other commentary that's coming in from closest advisors of Mohammed Yunus. Are you saying this is not all directed towards India?
No. You are picking a wrong thing. That map has been described by even by the Muslim League in 1905.
I don't want to give even a second of this airtime to a map which is incorrect. I am not even giving a second of the airtime to that map. Only thing I'm talking about is the mindset. I'm talking about the mindset of the closest advisor of Mohammed Yunus. That's what I'm trying to say. Nothing else.
Yunus, you have to listen to what Dr. Yunus have said. You have to be, not this Tom, Dick and Harry advisor. Why are you quoting them?
Mahfouz Alam is his closest advisor. But okay, let me again rephrase my question which I asked you, sir. Let me rephrase my question, which is that if India has a choice and difficult choices to make, Bangladesh is also staring at a very difficult choice to make. How much of Mohammed Yunus's time, political capital, energy he wants to focus on getting Sheikh Hasina back as compared to rebuilding his economy, rebuilding his society, getting his electoral roadmap back in place and ensuring a relationship with New Delhi that comes back or resembles normalcy like earlier times. That's a choice he needs to make. Where do you think he will make that choice?
You have given a multiple choice. For example, like if you're talking about India right now, yes, there are trade relationships that is continuing with the relation. The only thing is the connectivity, the people-to-people contact, the visa. India has totally, there's an embargo on the visas to the Bangladesh nationals. So you can understand, so nothing is working. So people contact, the people who are supposed to take medical care or students or any other people going for tourism or whatever, they have been barred. So the trains are not flying. You can understand the planes are not flying. to India, and of course the buses are also not flying. So there is a tension among the people in Bangladesh. The only thing would be that if India gives a positive indication that yes, Hasina could be sent back to Bangladesh, I can advocate that the relationship will immediately heighten up.
Okay, so relationship hinges on getting Sheikh Hasina back and getting,
Of course.
rather than repairing some of the other lost political ground. Thank you so much, both of you. I'm afraid I'm completely out of time, but this is a story I'm going to revisit simply because it is so fluid. There's so much that is happening. And viewers,